February 1st, 1959, the Ural Mountains, Soviet Russia. 9 of the most experienced hikers in the country set up their tent on a slope called Kolatsyakl. In the local Mansi language, that name means one thing, dead mountain. Sometime after midnight, something happened. Something so terrifying that all 9 of them sliced open the tent from the inside and ran out into -30-degree darkness. No shoes, no coats, no explanation. 6 died from hypothermia. 3 died from injuries so severe that Soviet investigators compared the force to a car crash. 1 was missing her tongue. Another had bitten through his own knuckle. The Soviet government closed the case 3 months later. Their official conclusion: a compelling natural force. That's it. No details. No explanation. The files were classified for 30 years. This is what they found. And this is what they didn't tell you. January 23rd, 1959. Sverdlovsk, Soviet Union. Igor Dyatlov is 23 years old, radio engineering student, elite hiker. He has completed some of the most difficult mountain routes in the Soviet Union. He assembles a team of 9 people. Most are fellow students from the Ural Polytechnic Institute. All of them hold Grade 2 hiking certifications. All of them are experienced in extreme winter conditions. Their goal: reach the summit of Mount Ototen, 190 miles, through the northern Urals in 16 days. The route is classified Category 3, the most dangerous classification possible in the Soviet Union. But these 9 are not afraid. They have done this before. Before leaving, Dyatlov makes a promise to his sports club. "We will send a telegram when we return." On January 27th, they begin their trek. 1 day later, a team member named Yuri Yudin develops severe joint pain. He has no choice. He turns back. He never sees his friends again. He is the only one who survives. The remaining 9 continue into the mountains, into the cold, into the dark. Their cameras are rolling. Their diaries are open. They are laughing, singing, making jokes. These are the last images ever taken of them alive. February 1st, day 6 of the expedition. The group is making good progress toward Mount Ototen. But as afternoon turns to evening, conditions change. A snowstorm moves in. Visibility drops to near zero. The group loses their direction and drifts west, directly toward the slope of Kolatsyakl, Dead Mountain. Dyatlov makes a decision. They will camp here tonight. Rather than lose the altitude they've gained, they dig into the slope, set up their large shared tent, secure their equipment inside. At this point, everything is normal. Their diaries show no fear. Their last entry is almost cheerful. They go to sleep. What happens next is unknown. Sometime between midnight and 2 a.m., something wakes them up. Something so sudden, so terrifying, that 9 experienced hikers do the most irrational thing imaginable. They grab their knives, they slash the tent open from the inside, and they run out into -30-degree darkness in nothing but their underwear and socks. They leave everything behind: their shoes, their coats, their food, their equipment. They run toward the tree line, almost a mile away, and they never come back. February 20th. The sports club waits for Dyatlov's telegram. It never arrives. A search party is dispatched. 6 days later, on February 26th, they find the tent. What they see stops them cold. The tent has been sliced open, from the inside, with knives. The cuts are deliberate, not panicked. Someone wanted out fast and had no time to use the entrance. Inside the tent, all their belongings, shoes, coats, food, equipment, everything left exactly as it was, as if they had simply stepped outside for a moment. Outside the tent, 9 sets of footprints in the snow. People wearing only socks, or 1 shoe, or nothing at all. The tracks led toward the tree line. The search party follows them. At the edge of the forest, under a large cedar tree, they find the first 2 bodies: Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishenko, both 21 and 23 years old, found in nothing but their underwear. Their hands are burned. There are broken branches 15 feet up in the tree above them. Someone had climbed it. They had clearly built a small fire. It had burned out long before they died. Over the next 2 weeks, 3 more bodies are found in the snow between the tent and the tree. They are partially clothed, wearing pieces of clothing that belonged to the others, as if the living had stripped the dead to survive. Then spring comes. The snow melts. In May, the last 4 bodies are discovered in a ravine 250 feet from the tree. What the investigators find next changes everything. 3 of the 4 have injuries unlike anything seen before. Crushed ribs, a fractured skull, internal bleeding so severe it could only have been caused by an extreme external force, comparable to a high-speed car crash. There are no external wounds, no cuts, no bruises on the skin. The force came from inside, and one of them, Lyudmila Dubinina, is missing her tongue. The Soviet investigation begins immediately, and the more they find, the less sense it makes. The radiation. When the last 4 bodies are recovered, their clothing is tested. 2 of them, Krivonishenko and Zolotaryov, show significant levels of radioactive contamination. Not enough to kill, but enough to raise questions. Krivonishenko had previously worked at a secret Soviet nuclear facility after a radioactive leak. But why was his clothing contaminated here, in the middle of the Ural Mountains? The orange skin. Multiple witnesses who attended the hikers' funerals reported something disturbing. The bodies had an unusual deep orange-brown tan, as if they had been exposed to something. Investigators had no explanation. The mysterious lights. In the weeks around the incident, multiple people in the region report seeing strange glowing orbs in the sky above the Ural Mountains. A search team member writes in his diary that he witnessed these lights himself on the night of March 31st, while searching for the missing hikers, the missing file pages. When the Soviet Union collapses in 1991 and the case files are finally released, investigators discover something alarming. Pages are missing. Key sections of the report have been removed. Someone had gone back into the files and taken something out. The older man, Semyon Zolotaryov, was different from the others. At 38, he was significantly older. He had joined the group at the last minute. He was a veteran of World War II, with connections to Soviet intelligence. Why was he on this trip? What was he actually doing there? The Soviet government closed the investigation in May 1959 after only 3 months. Their official conclusion, a compelling natural force, caused the deaths. No elaboration, no specifics. Case closed. The files were classified and hidden for 30 years. Avalanche. In 2019, Russia reopened the investigation. Prosecutors proposed a slab avalanche, a delayed collapse of snow caused by the cut the hikers made in the slope to install their tent. In 2021, Swiss scientists built a computer simulation supporting this theory. The delayed avalanche would explain the crushing injuries and the panicked escape, but it doesn't explain everything. The slope angle was too shallow for a typical avalanche. Search teams found no avalanche debris, and nothing explains the radiation, the missing tongue, or the classified files. Theory 2. Soviet military testing. The campsite was located directly in the flight path between 2 Soviet nuclear testing facilities. Some researchers believe a military weapon test, perhaps an experimental pressure weapon or missile, caused the blast injuries and the orange skin discoloration. This would explain why the files were classified and why pages went missing. Theory 3. Infrasound strong. Winds passing through mountain terrain can create infrasound, sound waves below human hearing. These waves can cause extreme panic, hallucinations, and a desperate urge to flee. It would explain why 9 rational, experienced hikers ran into -30-degree darkness for no visible reason, but it does not explain the crushing injuries. Theory 4. KGB Operation. Zolotaryov and Krivonishenko, the 2 with radioactive clothing, are the center of this theory. The idea? They were KGB agents sent to hand over false nuclear intelligence to CIA operatives in the mountains. The handover went wrong. The Americans discovered the deception. A confrontation followed. The government covered it up. It sounds like a film. But the radioactive clothing, classified files, and Zolotaryov's mysterious background keep this theory alive. Here is what is certain. 9 experienced hikers entered Dead Mountain on the night of February 1st, 1959. Something happened after midnight. that caused all 9 of them to cut their way out of the tent and run into lethal cold without clothing or shoes. 3 of them sustained injuries consistent with extreme physical force, with no external wounds to explain how. The Soviet government closed the investigation in 3 months, classified the files, and removed pages. When the files were released 30 years later, they were incomplete. Here is what is not certain: what woke them up, what caused the injuries, why the clothing was radioactive, where the missing file pages went, what Semyon Zolotaryov was really doing there, and what made the orange lights in the sky. In 2019, Russia officially reopened the case. In 2020, they closed it again. Their conclusion: avalanche, natural causes. The victims' families rejected this conclusion. Yuri Yudin, the only survivor, the man who turned back on day 2, spent the rest of his life trying to find the truth. He died in 2013 without answers. The mountain is still there. The pass still carries Dyatlov's name. People still hike it today. And the question that has never been answered, the question that 9 sets of footprints walking barefoot into -30-degree darkness will never stop asking, remains open. What made them run? The Dyatlov Pass Incident has been studied for over 60 years by journalists, by scientists, by governments, by the victims' own families. No one has found a complete answer. What we are left with is this: 9 people who knew exactly what they were doing, who had survived extreme conditions before, who had every reason to stay inside a warm tent, chose to run into certain death instead. Whatever they saw, whatever they heard, whatever came for them on Dead Mountain that night, it was worse than -30 degrees. It was worse than freezing to death in the snow without shoes. It was worse than anything they had ever trained for. And 65 years later, we still don't know what it was. If you want to go deeper, the theories, the evidence, the classified files, let me know in the comments. Because some mysteries don't get solved. They just get closer